How to make a man fall madly in love with you. If you want a man to not just love you, but to become insatiable, to deeply desire you, deeply crave you, to where his devotion and his feelings of worship even are activated, then these secrets are going to be key to unlocking that power to avoid a man pulling away, losing interest, falling out of love, or ultimately leaving you potentially. So, hi, I'm Brody Boyd, and together with my wife, Antia, we've been helping thousands of successful women all over the world to attract a loving, long term committed relationship. And today I am joined by my good friend, Kevin Anthony, and he is also a certified sex coach and NLP expert and many other things. So I'm excited to have his opinion as well as we dive deep into this concept, into the secrets, into the training today. So welcome, Kevin.
Thanks for having me. It's been a while since we've gotten to do a show together.
I know. It's probably been almost maybe not a year, but maybe somewhere around there since we had all the kids and so many things happened. But yeah, we're excited to dive in. I'm excited to dive in. I'm sure the audience is excited to dive in and having you back. So yeah, let's kick it off. What would you say with that topic, how to make a man fall in love with you? What do you believe are some of the main secrets for a woman to be able to have a man fall deeply in love in her relationship with her?
Ooh, this is such a great topic and a big question. There's so many places that I could go with that. Let me start first with this idea that if you really want him to fall in love with you, if you really want him to commit to you, if you want him to, want to marry you and stay in relationship with you, it helps a lot if you can basically show him that you're invaluable to him, right? And that doesn't mean like as a servant or anything like that. But what that means is that his life is ultimately better as a result of you being in it, right? And so, that can mean a lot of different things. We can explore that a little bit deeper. But this idea that when he really looks at, you know, is this a ton of work and maybe I'd just be better being by myself? Or, is she indispensable and my life just wouldn't be the same way without her? Right. And I think, that is one of the big keys. You want to be in that place where he feels like he can't and wouldn't want to do life without you.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful. In the Bible, God said, "It is not good for man to be alone, and I'm going to create a helper suitable for him." And so it's interesting that phrasing that God recognized in Genesis that a man does not do well by himself, that actually his life can be improved, his life can be amplified by having the right woman in it. And it's just in alignment with what you're saying here that a man is really looking to when he chooses a woman, when he has a woman that he falls in love with, that it is a woman that his life is better with her in it, having that helper, which is the other term from the Bible, which is I view it as not a coach, not a therapist, but a woman who is supporting her man, who is submitting to her man, which means supporting his mission as a man, supporting him, being like his cheerleader, like his this vessel that he gets to protect, that he gets to take care of, and feel appreciated by, valued by, that he can be the hero towards, and that gives him a sense of purpose. That's one thing that I believe is really important to a man, to every man who chooses to commit to a man, especially who falls deeply in love and chooses to commit to that woman. It's because he feels a deeper sense of meaning. He feels a deeper sense of purpose having her in his life rather than not having her in his life. Just like the knight in shining armor, he needs a mission, he needs a purpose to achieve for him to feel like he's being fully utilized, that he has some value in the world. And he may not have a grand mission like, going on to into the crusades or conquering some wild territory, but you can be his mission. You can be the wild territory that he gets to conquer. What do you say about that, Kevin?
You'd be surprised at how many men don't necessarily feel that way. In other words, they're in relationship and they're just happen to be there, right? And they're looking at it more from the perspective of it's a pain in the ass. it's a lot of work. She's hard to deal with. Maybe I would be better off just being single, or maybe I should just get on the dating apps, right? And that's a terrible place to be in relationship. Now, I'm not saying that that's all the woman's fault. It isn't by any means. But you do want to make sure that you're setting yourself up for success and doing everything you can to make sure that he views you completely opposite from that, where he looks at you and goes, man, my life just wouldn't be the same. And you used a couple of different words there, some of which might be a little triggering to some people and to others not at all. But this idea that she is supporting his mission is really, really important. And when people hear that, well, some people, when they hear that, they're going to go, well, what about my mission? Shouldn't he be supporting my mission? Well, yes, in a partnership, he's going to help support your mission as well. But what he really needs from a partner is somebody that is really there for him, that is helping support his mission in the world, and doing so happily, not from a sort of begrudging state, and I think that we shouldn't look at this whole idea of, oh, she's just the helper. She's just in the background. She's just here to, do all that for him. That's not what I'm talking about. Certainly when I'm talking about, making his life better. I do see it as we help each other in a relationship to grow and become better. But a big part of that is, when I look at my woman, do I see somebody who's supporting me, or do I see somebody that's challenging me, criticizing me, making my life more difficult, right? So that's kind of what I mean by, really making his life better.
Yeah, and there's so many things we've covered on many of our videos here as far as the mistakes that a woman can make in a relationship with a man. You already mentioned some of them, like competing with him, criticizing him, challenging him, being contemptuous towards him, blaming him, shaming him, trying to control him, emasculating him, et cetera, et cetera. And a lot of women are aware of these things, because a lot of what I say in relation to feminine energy is that a lot of feminine energy is actually what you don't do. Many of the ways that you make a man fall in love with you is actually what you don't do, what you don't say. In Proverbs, there's a lot of great verses around how powerful your tongue is as a woman in many different ways, but especially with your verbiage and the words you say to your man, you could really make or break a man with the power of your tongue. And so the words you speak and the attitude that comes along with those words can either also make the difference between having an argument with a man, pushing away a man, or bringing him close, making him cherish you and adore you even more. And so it's important for you to realize how much power you have as a woman to really make or break a man, to make or break empires based on your tongue, based on not just your tongue, but also your essence as a woman, your feminine core, which every woman has a feminine core. And so I want to go into also, what are some of the positive aspects? We can touch more on the negative aspects as they come up, but I want to hear from you, Kevin. What would you say are some of the main positive aspects of what a woman can do that makes a man feel that deep feeling of love for her, that gets stimulated within his heart, within his chest, his core as a man? What are some of those things she can do or say that would activate that within him?
Well, one, he really needs to feel like, I use this term all the time. A relationship is basically a team, right? You need to function as a team. And so he needs to feel like you're on his team. Now, you remember the old comedy movie, Meet the Parents, where Robert De Niro's character is talking about the circle of trust, right? He needs to feel like you are an absolute committed member to that circle of trust. He needs to feel that from you. And as you rightly said, a lot of stuff is what you don't do, right? So it's kind of sad that in today's day and age, we have to spend a lot of time teaching what not to do. It's kind of like, today, if you want really healthy food, it's not about what you put in the food to make it healthy. It's what you don't put in the food, right? And it's kind of the same thing here with how we relate. Instead of us simply saying, well, here's the things that you need to do in order to have a healthy relationship, we also have to spend a significant amount of time on here's what you don't do. So that was a really great point that you brought up. But focusing on the things that you do, be a team member 100%. He has to know that he can trust you. He wants to feel that you're supporting his mission. You'd be surprised how many times a man has a mission, whatever that mission is, and his woman constantly feels like that mission is taking away from her or taking away from the relationship. And so she's sort of pushing back against that all the time. Like, why do you spend so much time at work? Or why do you do this? Or why do you do that? Not realizing that by sort of competing with his mission, she's putting him in a really bad place. And he doesn't feel like you're a team player and that you're supporting his mission. So, be a team player. Everything that is good for the team is good for both of you. Definitely support his mission. Another one is, to really work on creating polarity. We haven't really gotten into talking about polarity yet here on this show, but this idea that, there are masculine and feminine energies there, and there are roles here. And that when we allow ourselves to, step into the role that suits us. So if we're, a masculine man, that means stepping into the masculine role. For a feminine woman, that means stepping into the feminine role. When we do that, we create polarity. And when we create that polarity, you will notice that everything else starts to just work smoothly and harmoniously. So if you want him to really fall in love with you and you want him to really love you, you've got to create polarity in that relationship. So that means, ladies, as a woman, that means, Brody used the term earlier, submit to your man. I don't generally use those words because, if I'm speaking to, a bit more of a spiritual religious audience, they get it, they understand what that means. But if I'm speaking more to the general populace, that term drives people insane and they get instantly defensive. We don't mean submit like a slave. That's not what we're talking about. But we mean relaxing into your feminine energy, allowing him to be the masculine energy, allowing him to step up, allowing him to lead like you actually really want, if you're honest with yourself, right? So allowing yourself to relax into your feminine energy and letting him step up into his masculine is another thing that will absolutely make him fall in love with you. And in the West, nowadays, we haven't seen a whole lot of that in recent years. And a lot of men are used to being in relationships where it feels like this constant jockeying for who's in charge and who's in the lead, and it's just this constant competition. And competition is one of the 4 C's that you shouldn't ever do, right? So when we're talking about things you shouldn't do, it's complain, criticize, compete, control, right? So you don't want to end up in that position. You want to be in that position where you are relaxing into your feminine, right? Allowing him to step up into his masculine. And that generally just works really well.
Yeah. And I love the idea, like you mentioned, how important it is to be on the same team. And this goes for men and women. And remember, we're helping women here primarily. I used to coach men. I coached men for many years. There's a lot of men who want to step up, who want to be better men to their women. And the beautiful thing about polarity, which is why I love this teaching so much, is that we don't have to coach the man here for him to help him be a stronger leader, to help him want to protect and provide for you and support you more as well, to cherish you, to adore you. All we need to do is help you to change, because ultimately we can't change him, but we can help change you. You can change yourself by connecting more to your feminine core, who you actually are from the moment you were born. Every woman has that feminine core inside. And a big aspect of this, so the law of polarity states that opposite energies attract. So if you become more feminine, you're going to attract more masculinity around you, more masculine, healthy men who are going to want to help you. And your man is going to be more activated in his healthy masculine, where he's going to want to give to you, which is a masculine, provide for you, help you, support you, take care of you, meet your needs, and want to make you happy ultimately because he loves you, because he cares. And so that is a huge aspect of having a man fall in love with you as well, is a visual process of seeing yourself on the same team as him. Just like in the Bible, it said, I'm going to make a helper suitable for him. But that's a team, right? I mean, Eve in the Bible, she was literally created from Adam's rib. She was created from a piece of him. How could you be more of a team than that, where you are part of the same, really part of the same soul? That's why they have this term, the soulmate, is seeing yourself as the soulmate with a man that is a healthy man who you believe can be your man, who is not abusing you, who's not deeply broken, but who is making progress, who is helping you, who is loving you, who's starting to show signs that he does care for you. Of course, he will show more and more signs the more you use what we teach you here. And especially if you use our Magnetic Feminine 90-day challenge, a man will start to improve over time, showing you more devotion. And if he doesn't, that does mean typically that he's a broken man, possibly deeply broken, that may not be salvageable. There's a percentage of men out there, about 10 to 15%, that are deeply broken, as well as women. There's about that percentage. It's slightly higher for men, but he may be broken. And in that case, you're going to have to walk away so that you can attract a healthy man. And even though that can be tough. However, what happens is when you see yourself on the same page, on the same team. So it's literally what I want you to visualize is you may see him in your mind. When you close your eyes, you may see him as this entity outside of you, as this almost like a threat, like you are attracted to him, but you're also a little scared of him. That's typically how attraction works because of the otherness that the opposite sex represents to you. There's some mystery there, the same that he will feel with you. There's like this desire, but there's also this fear. There's like a threat. There's like an anxiety of like, well, what if I get hurt again? What if he takes advantage of me? What if he breaks my trust? What if he physically hurts me? So there can be a lot of mixed emotions when you're interacting with a man. And once you have a relationship with him, even when you're married with a man, you can still have some of these mixed feelings about him. And so the powerful exercise here is to actually close your eyes and see him not as an otherness, but see him as your teammate, that you're on the same team facing the challenge together, or looking at your relationship together. Imagine your relationship almost as like it's a third party. Imagine your relationship as if it's like this beautiful sandcastle that you are both building together. You're building this beautiful sandcastle with all these amazing banners and flags and beautiful windows and courtyards and gardens. You're building this relationship together. You're on the same team. And if there's any challenges like, well, why is this tower leaning over a little bit? How can we fix this? What do we need to adjust? There's something not right here. And you'd have a discussion about it. You solve the problem together and you work on it together to make it better as a team. And so it can be very powerful for you to visualize that often with your man, is seeing him moving from the otherness to next to you side by side, which is, by the way, how men are more likely to bond with a woman, is not by facing directly towards you and interacting with you directly. But many studies have shown men are more likely to bond with you and fall in love when they're standing next to you, when you're doing shared activities like building a sandcastle, or like going to the beach together, or going on a hike, or going hunting, or playing football, or sailing together, or going to a concert together. Like you're doing activities together. That's where a man feels this sense of like, wow, this is my partner. This is someone I could share my life with. This is my the helper suitable for me. And then you are his king. You are he is also your helper in a sense. He is your leader. He is the lead to your follow. Just like in that beautiful tango dance, a healthy man is okay with leading. He is okay with direction and wanting to solve problems, wanting to make you happy. And then you can receive from him his healthy leadership, his devotion, his worship of you, his adoration of you, to want to make you happy, to want to take care of issues, to want to make sure things are handled, to plan dates, to plan your life together, to commit, and to plan a future ultimately together. Just like that beautiful sandcastle, you could also see that as you building your future together, whether that's family, friends, career, other missions that you may have that you're both passionate about. So the main thing I'm getting to here is switching that mindset from the otherness to the teammate helper in your relationship.
Yeah, there's a biological reason why we as men bond that way. I had a great guy on my podcast named Adam Lane Smith, and we talked about this, where women primarily bond via oxytocin. So this is what you were talking about, like face to face, we're bonding, right? We're sharing something, and that's often the most powerful way that women bond. But men tend to bond more through a different hormone called vasopressin. Vasopressin gets released when we do things like solve a problem together, right? When we go through adversity together. And this really comes back to that idea of, showing him that his life is better as a result of having you in it. When you function as that team, which by the way is one of the most important relationship, teachings that you could get, is that you got to stop looking at your partner as an adversary, as somebody to compete with, and start seeing them as, your teammate. But when you do that, and when you go through adversities, when you do things together, right, that is releasing the vasopressin, which is making him bond deeper with you. So, simple little things that, say somebody like Adam would recommend was like solving a puzzle together, right? Now, I mean, if you want to create things to help you bond, you can do that. You can solve puzzles together. You can solve business challenges together. But generally, life will throw enough challenges at you that you won't need to create them in order to bond. But the bonding really only works if, when those challenges do come up, you actually work together as a team in a way where he feels like you were an addition. So, in other words, okay, a challenge comes up, and the two of you sit down, like Brody just said, and say, okay, how are we going to solve this? What can each of us do? What skills does each of us have that will, work best in this situation? Maybe it's something I can do myself. Maybe it's just me supporting you. Whatever it is, right? You're working together as a team like that, so that ultimately the problem gets solved, and it gets solved in probably the easiest way that it could, as opposed to the problem comes up and, no, no, don't do it that way, and I think you should do it this way, and why do you always do it that way? And that you get into that sort of complain, criticize, compete, control sort of framework. When that happens, you don't get that release of vasopressin, and you don't get that bonding effect. It only works when you work together as a team.
Yes, totally. Yeah, I love that. Having simple puzzles and challenges that you can do together. Sometimes things like video games or sports activities, things where you are literally on the same team and you are facing the enemy, so to speak. You are facing the challenge together. So you turn it from a metaphor to a reality so that you both have this visceral experience of like, wow, we're doing this together. Like, for example, me and Antia, we recently started taking a tango dance class. So we signed up for 6 lessons to start with. And it's like this challenge that we get to approach together. I have some dance experience. I used to do West Coast swing, but she has really no dance experience as far as partner dancing. And so it's interesting for us to be able to both face this challenge together and learn how to do tango. And it's been really fun and really interesting. I'm actually looking forward to it now every week to our next class. We have to probably practice. We've only practiced once since our last class. We got to practice a little bit more. We're going to not get as much out of it. We're going to forget some of the moves. But the other big reason, of course, we talked about in this last video I did with Antia, one of the last videos was, of course, you learn the polarity principles in a dance like that. And I believe that's one of the main, most powerful ways that a man will fall in love with you is like what Kevin was saying, through the power of polarity, through the opposite energies coming together, that beautiful dance between man and woman, where he gets to lead, he gets to provide the structure, the tempo, the guidance. He's protecting you from falling on other people. He's avoiding stepping on your toes. He's making sure you're enjoying the dance. And then you, as the feminine, as the follow in the relationship, you get to follow his lead. You listen. That's a big part of it, is listening to where he wants to lead you. You listen with your body. In a relationship, you would listen, of course, with your ears, but you also still listen to a man with your body. Try to actually feel into, where is he trying to take things right now? What is he wanting to do with both of you? And then following that guidance, respecting him in the dance, trusting him in the dance, that he is going to provide pleasure for both of you, because that's what happens in a dance. A man is leading for his pleasure and for your pleasure. And of course, if a man is stepping on your toes, or if he's not doing a good job, then you have every right to stop dancing with him, and at least to have a conversation with him and say, may I ask if we can talk about the dance, talk about what's going on. I noticed some issues coming up for me. Can I get some help with that? And then you could talk about what the problem is, how you're getting your toes stepped on, how you don't feel taken care of. You're not feeling like this is a really enjoyable dance. And there's ways to have that conversation in it that are still respectful and still vulnerable, so that you are speaking up, which is very important. You need to speak up so that a man understands when you're quote unquote not happy and how he can make it better. But you want to do it as a queen, which means you're also doing it gracefully, respectfully from your feminine. That's where magnetic feminine communication comes in, that we teach our clients. And having a magnetic feminine conversation, which may be more sensitive around bigger topics, bigger things that you might be having an issue with, such as him pulling away or not texting you as much, or that he's not committing to you over time, or that he's looking at other women, or he has an addiction of some kind. There's something going on that's a bigger problem. How do you as a woman address those situations and not just shove it under the rug and pretend everything's good when it's not? Because of course the rug builds up, and eventually you may even forget that the rug has so much stuff under it, and you can't even remember all the things that are built up that you have now resentment over, and you become passive aggressive in your relationship and start criticizing him or complaining or telling him what to do or treating him like a child or trying to control him. So we want to avoid that. And how do you unleash and actually pull up the rug, but have it as an empowered conversation where you both get to actually clean it up together? Just like that castle analogy, you're building something beautiful, but what do you do when there's also a bunch of garbage? There's a bunch of poop on the beach that you need to clean up. How do you have that conversation and do it together in a way that's fun, in a way that's enjoyable? You can even make it fun. Some of these conversations can be still fun and playful. Talk about the issue and turn it into something positive. Turn it into now resolution and closeness, rather than distance, defensiveness, arguments, or him closing up and pulling away, which isn't going to lead him closer to you. Do you have any other thoughts on that, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say that one of the things that I notice with coaching women nowadays is this concept that we're talking about creating the polarity, about softening into your feminine, is one of the hardest things for women to get, because what we see a lot in modern society is she wants him to step up. She wants him to be the leader. Ultimately, she wants him to, take charge. But the way that she goes about it is in a very masculine way, right? So rather than, all right, I'm going to relax back into my feminine, I'm going to encourage him, I'm going to support him, help him step up, it's more like I'm going to try to push him into it. And whenever you do that, you inevitably get bad results. It just never works out that way. So just the whole topic that we're talking about creating that polarity is so important. And I just, if the ladies are listening, I want you to understand how powerful softening into your feminine is. And this is the talk I give because I coach a fair number of women these days. And I always have to talk about this idea that feminine does not equal weak. We have this notion in our society that, oh, if I'm too much in my feminine, then I'm going to be weak or I'm going to be taken advantage of. That is not true at all. Feminine is extremely powerful. It is just a different kind of power. I like to use martial arts analogies because I've trained martial arts for many years in my life. I say that Muay Thai, which is Thai kickboxing, is very masculine. It is an absolutely masculine art. It is just raw power. It is, I'm going to overpower you with muscle and bone, right? But something like Aikido is very different. Aikido doesn't do that. Aikido is more feminine flow. Aikido says, I'm going to take the energy that you're directing at me and I'm just going to send it over here, right? And that's where you see the Aikido master barely moves and the opponent goes flying across, right? And it's kind of like that when it comes to, feminine and masculine energies. The feminine energy can be just as strong. It just goes about things in a different way. And once you realize that, and you can start to work on mastering the art of being feminine, being that queen that Brody was talking about a few moments ago, that's when you really start to realize just how powerful being in your feminine can be. And once you do that, you realize I've been doing it all wrong the whole time. Like there's no need for me to, put on my pantsuit and, be the ball busting masculine woman, because it's so much easier and I get such better results if I just sink into my feminine and learn to use that power. You learn to use it masterfully, but also respectfully too. Like, right, with great power comes great responsibility. So once you really learn how to master that feminine energy, you want to, of course, make sure that you are using it responsibly because it really is that powerful.
Yeah, like we talked about before, the power of your tongue to make or break a man, uh, it's there, and it really is the unseen power that does have that huge responsibility that comes with it. Um, there's another great quote. I'll put it up here from Proverbs as well, which is, "Death and life are in the power of the tongue, and those who love it will eat its fruits." So, really, the power of bringing life to your relationship or death to your relationship comes with the power of your tongue. And if you want to live its fruits, have a fruitful marriage, have a fruitful relationship, or attract a man who brings a lot of fruit to the table, so to speak, who wants to give to you, who wants to provide, then that's going to be the key. How do you show up in your relationships? But also, more importantly, how are you using your tongue? How are you using your words? And also, how are you not using your words? Like, how are you being willing to sometimes just not say that thing that you know would be coming across as disrespectful or as an attack or as a complaint or trying to change him or trying to control him. Now, it's not about, I don't actually like the idea of just being silent and not saying anything, although sometimes there are cases where you should just let it rest. You should just let it rest. You just let him have some space, let him go into the bear cave. Maybe that's the next thing we can talk about as a big principle. Let him rejuvenate his masculine energy, let him rebuild his testosterone. So then when he comes back, he's able to engage you also from a respectful place where he's not saying anything hurtful. He's not doing anything hurtful. So sometimes you do need to just let him have that space. And then there's also the moments when you want to speak up, of course. And this is what I generally recommend is you want to speak up and you just have to do it in the right way. You have to do it in a way that a masculine man can integrate it, that he can hear it, and it doesn't feel to him like an attack. It doesn't feel to him like a criticism or like he's not good enough. Because ultimately, that's the biggest fear for most men is the fear of not being good enough, the fear of failing, the fear that he doesn't have what it takes. He doesn't have what it takes to be a man. He doesn't have what it takes to make you happy. He doesn't have what it takes to make any woman happy. Like that's the ultimate fear of a man. And so when that fear is activated, if he feels that consistently with you, that he can't make you happy, that he's constantly failing, that he's not good enough, and that there's no balance with the appreciation, with the value, with the respect, then he's going to start withdrawing. And so that's another big piece of how to make a man fall deeply in love with you is to appreciate him, to value him, to respect him, and even to admire and revere him. Now, we want to do this from an authentic place. I don't want you to fake it and fake that you respect the guy, fake that you admire him when really you despise him or you are maybe actually disgusted by him in some ways because he's broken or because he's abusive or because he's feminine. And so you have to have it come from a authentic place. And so now there's two options when you choose that path. When you choose to be a high value, feminine, queenly woman, you want to be respectful. You want to be appreciative. You want to inspire a man to devote to you. And if you can't get yourself to that place, well, then you have to look at why are you with this guy? Why are you with a man that you don't respect? Why are you with a man that you can't find anything that you admire about him or that you trust about him or that you honor and revere about him? That's the first thing is why are you choosing men or why are you with a man or why are you attracting men that you do not respect, that you do not have any of that sense of reverence for his masculine energy and for his masculine core and his difference, his otherness from you. And then number two is, so why are you attracting those men? And then number two would be, okay, if your man isn't showing you those things, how can you look deeper to find those things that you actually do authentically admire and respect about him, and then to appreciate him for that? And now the third option really is if he's not doing anything that you appreciate or respect, now you have to learn the art of request, the art of asking for what you need, for what you want. And we did a video of this just the other day about how to ask a man from your feminine using feminine communication, such as, may I ask if you can take out the trash? Or may I ask if we can spend some time this evening, my king or my hero or my lion warrior. You can use honorifics as well, where you give him that sexy nicknames that can be playful and that can help him to feel more like your hero. But the art of asking is an art, And it's also a practice to be able to ask a man for his advice, to ask him for help, to ask him to do things for you in a respectful way, in a vulnerable way that makes him inspired over time to actually do those things for you, to do them more and more because he feels good about it. And then when he gets appreciated for doing those things and how it affects you, how it makes you feel, it makes you feel happy, then he feels happy because he's being of service. He's being an empowered, valuable man, and he wants to do that more and more. And all of a sudden you're in the upward spiral where he's becoming more masculine, you're becoming more feminine, you're able to receive, submit more into his leadership. He's giving and providing for you. He's protecting, he's stepping up, he's committing, he's investing more in the relationship. And you're in this beautiful upward spiral of this masculine feminine dance rather than the downward spiral that most men and women get caught into, unfortunately, because they don't understand these principles. Do you have anything else
Yeah.
you want to share on that, Kevin?
Well, you mentioned appreciation, and appreciation is so, so big when it comes to really making a man fall madly in love with you. He needs to feel your appreciation. This is really, really big. It's something I teach all my clients, especially couples when I work with them. It's just the appreciation game, which is, you take a few minutes every day to share 3 things to love and or appreciate about each other. So, as the woman, you can take lead on that and, say, hey, let's play this game. I'm going to start and share 3 things that you love and appreciate about him. It is a super simple, but highly effective practice that you can do every single day. The other interesting thing that you said, Brody, was you brought up this idea of like being a high value woman. And this is also really important, because a lot of what we're talking about are things, that the ladies themselves can do. And I teach the same thing to men. I tell them they want to become the best version of themselves, and I help teach them how to do that. But when it comes to speaking to the ladies, yeah, you want to be a high value woman. If you want to attract a high value man, you have to be a high value woman. If you want a king, you've got to be a queen. Right? You can't be the king and you can't be any other, member of the court and expect that you're going to attract that king. So, the difficult part about that is that it requires us to look in the mirror and ask ourselves some really difficult questions about where we're at. And, if it were me doing the practice, then I'd have to look in the mirror and say, am I really showing up as my best? Am I really showing up as the king in this relationship? And ladies, you need to do the same thing. You need to ask yourself some serious questions. Are you really showing up as a high value queen in the relationship?
Yeah, it's very powerful. So with that, we're going to answer a few questions. Well, we have some time here and see what we can help you. We've been having some great comments coming in that I've been bringing here on the screen. So the first question we have is from, let me pull this up here. Where did it go? Okay, so Wendy said, I love my guy. He loves me. I'm more of the one in the relationship to talk about feelings. How do I get him to open up more without me having to ask him? Yeah, it's a great question, Wendy. I'll address this. So you have to realize that most men, especially the more masculine he is, he doesn't want to talk about his feelings. The more masculine a man is, the less actual connection he has to his feelings. Now, this doesn't mean that he's not emotional. We as men, of course, we have lots of feelings and we have lots of emotions on things oftentimes. However, not as much as you typically. When you're a feminine woman, when you're connected to your feminine core, your life becomes emotions. Your life is like the beautiful river or the weather that's constantly changing from ice to rain to snow to flowing water to the ocean, moving in waves. And just like the cycles of the month, constantly changing. Now, the masculine is designed to be goal oriented, structured, where just like in warfare, a man has to act regardless of how he feels. He has to go into the battle. He has to take care of his family. He has to provide dinner for his children and defeat the enemies. Otherwise, he will die. His family could potentially die. His whole tribe could potentially die. So it's been genetically wired into men to have the ability, in some ways, to bypass their emotions or at least to not give them so much weight and to then instead be more oriented towards logic, reasoning, to thinking, so problem solving, rather than the emotional nuance. So what we recommend, and I'll put this on the screen here, is to never ask a man how he feels. Always ask a man how he thinks. So let me get that. I spelled that wrong. So instead of asking him how he feels, oops, I posted that as a as a comment in here. There we go. I'll bring it up here. So ask him about what he thinks. You're much more likely to get a positive response. You're much more likely to get any response. And so what I would recommend in situations like that is, rather than saying, how do you feel? Or what are you feeling right now? Or, because really what you're looking for is help. You're looking for answers. You want reassurance. You want reassurance that he cares about you, that he loves you. And you're not typically going to get that by asking a man how he feels. So instead, you want to ask him for help. Ask him what he thinks, essentially. So ask him, may I ask if you could help, if we can spend some more time this evening? Or may I ask for a phone call? Or could I ask if we could spend some more, go on some fun adventure this weekend? Or could I share a feeling that I'm having? So instead of asking him what he's feeling, share your feelings. And then the way a man's going to show you his feelings is through his actions. He's going to show you his how he feels about you through listening to you, wanting to help, asking you more questions potentially about how you feel. Because you, as a feminine woman, also, you become like a surrogate heart for him, where he gets to feel his own emotions more through you. And that can be one aspect that makes him fall deeper in love, because now you're like his emotional life. You're like the excitement. You're like this presence, this change, this difference, this chaos, in a sense, to his structure. You're like full color and he's like black and white. And then this is polarity. This is a dance of polarity. Of course, it also depends on what kind of man you're dating and how feminine he may be, how broken he may be, which is typically a spectrum. So you want to, it does depend on the specific man. But instead of wanting to know what his feelings are, share your feelings first and foremost, ask him for help, use magnetic feminine communication, then look towards his actions. And you'll probably start finding that he's going to be giving you the things you actually want, which is reassurance, which is his care, which is his love, his time with you, his commitment, moving things forward, rather than just saying, I love you, which you probably want as well. And you can ask for that as well. But what he's going to more likely show you is through his actions. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that, Kevin.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I agree with everything that you're saying. And I think where a lot of women go wrong is that they expect him to react the same way that they would. So because they are very emotional beings, because, they kind of lead with their emotions, that then they want to know, what he's feeling. And so they expect that he's going to be either feeling similar things or that he's going to communicate them in the same way that she would. So, we often see the world through our own lens, right? Which is, well, if I were feeling this as a woman, I would want to talk about it and I would want to share this and I would want to do that. So, why isn't he doing that? Right. And when you have that expectation, you're really setting yourself up for, disaster. So it's better to realize that there are differences in the way that we process emotions and share emotions. And as Brody said, as a woman, you are definitely much more connected to your emotions. They're much more free flowing. They're changing much more often, right? And so, really, this is funny too, because my wife used to say the same thing. When she were live and she were coaching, she would say the worst question you can ever ask a man is, "What are you feeling?" or "Tell me how you're feeling about that," right? because a lot of times we just get irritated by it, right? But if you just say, "Okay, well, tell me what you think about this," then all of a sudden we have no problem answering that question, and we will demonstrate, as Brody said, through our actions, how we're actually feeling.
Yeah, totally. And I'll answer this last quick question from Julianne. Can any man be masculine, or what tips do you have for us to screen men for this when meeting potential partners? I don't want to waste my time on wussies no mo. Haha. Yeah. Great, Julianne. Great commitment to that. So what I would say is, yes, any man can be masculine, with a caveat. So, like I said before, there are men out there who are deeply broken, and because of their wounds, because of their trauma. So I would not say, so I'll take that back. I wouldn't say any man can be masculine, but I would say 85 roughly percent, 80 to 90% of men can be masculine, because every man has a masculine core deep inside, just like every woman has a feminine core deep inside. Now, the question is how broken this man may be. How many wounds does he have from childhood? How much bad programming does he have? Trauma does he have? You know, some men have bad addictions, addictive patterns. They are maybe have some narcissistic tendencies or sociopathic tendencies. And they're damaged goods. And some of these men, no matter what happens, they will not be able to be a healthy masculine for a woman. And that's just a fact. So it is a spectrum, but on the far side of the spectrum, there's men that they're irredeemable, unfortunately. And these are men who also typically end up in like prisons and outcasted from society because of that brokenness. So we're talking about extreme levels here. Now, beyond that, most men are capable, even if they're more feminine, even if they have some brokenness, they are still capable of healing themselves. Heal thyself. It's not your job to heal him, by the way. He has to heal himself. He has to step into that masculine core, which he likely will if you inspire him into it through your feminine energy. And you also attract men who you don't even have to do that with, that they already are in their healthy masculine because of you being in your healthy masculine, your healthy feminine. You've done the work as well. You've helped move closer to your feminine core. You've invested in yourself. You got coaching support, advanced trainings like you're getting here, investing into yourself with your time, your energy, financially, all the different ways to become the best woman you can be. You will attract more high value men that want to give to you, that want to provide for you in all the different ways. And so if you do, for some reason, meet a man, or you are attracting more feminine men, that's what we have to look at to you, inside of you. Why are you attracting that? And also, if you're with a man specifically that you have a lot of care for right now, we want to look at how can we inspire him into being more masculine. You inspire him into that through magnetic feminine polarity and magnetic feminine communication. And I would highly recommend doing our 90-day challenge to really see what kind of man you're dealing with and move him along that journey you're not moving him, you're inspiring him along that journey to become a more healthy masculine man for you. And then you will stop attracting wussies. You'll also stop attracting wussiness in your man because of your feminine energy. Do you have anything you want to add to that, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to avoid it, obviously you have to embody being the feminine yourself. And as Brody just said, you will start attracting more masculine men in. And at the same time, when you're going through the dating process, this is where you have an opportunity to sort of lead by example, which means you're out there dating, you have an opportunity to demonstrate your femininity, right? And then you get to see how he responds, right? So it could be you're going to go on a date and you're deciding where to go for dinner, and you relax into your feminine and you let him take the lead. Does he actually do it, right? And then how does he do it? Those are all things that you can look for. One of the things that almost everybody does when they're dating is they're sort of on best behavior, right? They're presenting to the other person the best version that they think the other person wants to see. And I think that's just foolish because you end up just wasting your time. So you want to be yourself, you want to be authentic, you want to model being in your feminine, and then you want to see how he responds to you. Pay attention to the things that he says, the things that he does, how he reacts when you're more in your feminine. And those things will all give you clues as to whether or not, he is a masculine man, or whether or not he at least has the capability. Now, I agree, with what Brody said. Unless they're deeply broken, any man has the potential. And even if they are deeply broken, technically they still have the potential if they learn to heal those wounds and become not broken anymore and healed. But some of these men that you might be meeting today, they have the potential, but they're not quite there yet because they've never really been given permission to go there, because there's so much pressure on men these days to not be men, to not be masculine, right? It's, toxic masculinity and this, that, and the other thing. But there's a lot of good men out there that when they meet the right woman and she's in her feminine and she's giving him permission to be that healthy masculine, will rise right up into that place. So, those are some things that you can look for when you're out there dating.
Yeah. And the last thing I'll add on to that is you could also do what I call feminine micro habits. So feminine micro habits are little ways that you are in your feminine through your communication or through your actions that are connected to your feminine core. And then what you do with these micro habits is then you observe what he does to see what kind of man he is. So, for example, ask him for his advice on something. Even on online dating, even if you just met a guy or you're on your first date, ask him, may I ask if I could get your advice on something? May I ask for your opinion on something? And then tell him what it is. And it should be an authentic problem you're dealing with in your life, maybe an issue with your one of your family members, or your health, or your career, or your finances, or some other challenge that you'd like his authentic advice with, and then see what he does. See how he handles that. And you'll probably find he really will enjoy giving you his advice and opinion. And then you can appreciate him afterwards. You could also simply ask him for a phone call. You can ask him if you can share a feeling you have with him. And then the other micro habit you can do, which I really like, is when you're walking to a door, pause and see if he opens the door for you. If you're going into an elevator, don't touch the button, pause, and let him ask you which floor are you going to, and let him hit the button. So you just give that little space, that pause, the feminine pause, to allow him to fill the space with his provision to either open the door for you, to push the button for you, to grab your jacket. And you can sometimes make it a little bit, help him a little bit by looking at what it is you want him to do for you. And maybe you could even smile a little bit, but give him those clues and then see what he does. See how he handles it. Does he like it? Does he get like kind of puffed up, like he feels like he's being the hero? Or does he kind of like ignore it, or he doesn't really read the signals, or he doesn't really care, and it's not helping you, giving you advice, etc. So you can try all these mini versions of using your feminine energy so you can screen out men quicker. So you're not wasting your time with men who obviously aren't helping you with that. And of course, he may still fake it in the beginning. So you need to give it some time with guys. You're just looking for the signs early on so that you keep giving him maybe some yellow lights or some green lights, unless you get to the point where you realize he's just not the one for you. So then you walk away. All right. Well, hope that was helpful today. And again, if you would like to get the advanced strategies that we teach and really master magnetic feminine polarity, magnetic feminine communication to get a loving, long-term committed relationship with a man you desire, then I would highly recommend taking our free Magnetize Your Man quiz. You can go to polarityquiz.com, or you can click on the link in the description or comments below. We're going to put it there. And you can also get our Magnetic Feminine 90-day challenge and get a specific recommendation for you, customized and personalized, get specific coaching to help you on your journey with what you're going through specifically, either if you're dating or if you have a man who's just not quite committing, stepping up. That's going to be the key where this all starts for you to unlock all the possibilities. So much love. Hope you enjoyed it. And we look forward to talking to you again later on. Bye-bye.